Hello, everyone. We are doing an open house tonight, but the main reason we're doing the open house is to showcase Bethany's Enneagram workshop. But we thought we would first start with introducing the team and just kind of let you know if you're new to Sweet Sobriety, who we are and what we do. So we created Sweet Sobriety as our best hope for an accessible and affordable solution to ultra processed food addiction. And we hope that within our community, you can be exposed to the fact that you can be wherever you are, and we will support you no matter what. And we will help guide you on the path to recovery, to be able to get to the place where you hope to go. That is our whole goal, is to support you in your recovery journey. So I'm Clarissa Kennedy. I'm one of the co-founders. I am a social worker. I'm a mental health and addictions counselor. I am recently trained in somatically informed self-compassion therapy. And this has been, our dream come true, to be able to have an online platform where we get a community with really professionally trained coaches to support people in their recovery journeys. I do have my own story of personal recovery, as well as being a professional. And so I certainly think that most of us on this team have our own story. And I think that that lived experience can help us understand where you're coming from. And I will introduce my co-founder, Molly Painshaw.
I think Heidi introduced us as partners in crime earlier today, and I almost died a little. It was like, I promise we're not doing anything bad. Hi, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Molly Painshaw. I'm a dual licensed mental health and addiction counselor in Montana. And like Clarissa said, this has been a dream come true to offer quality intervention for food addiction at a cost that hopefully does not leave anybody out. Right. Hopefully by pricing our services where they're at, people can afford to get the help that they need and deserve. So I, like Clarissa, have a bit of a personal story, though all of our stories are different. And I would highly encourage you to go listen to CJ's Food Junkies Recovery Stories podcast to hear our stories, because she is working through all of us and recording what we have to say for posterity's sake, I think, some days. So go check those out there if you want to know more about us. And I'm just really excited to have you here tonight. I'm really excited for what's coming with Sweet Sobriety in 2024, 2025. It's all about growth, and we just want to continue to grow our team, which is what we're doing. So I think we're going to leave Bethany for last, because you're going to hear from her about the Enneagram. But I think we should let CJ go next, and then we want to introduce you to Joan, our newest member. So CJ, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, guys. So I'm CJ Nye out of Atlanta, Georgia, and I have my own story of recovery as well. I am a certified food addictions coach, and I am a podcast host of Food Junkies Recovery Stories. So if you're interested in telling your story, I would appreciate it if you would apply to be on the show. No matter where you are in your recovery journey, we need every voice to champion this cause. I am very blessed to be a part of this amazing team of women. And I feel honored to be here. And I am so grateful to be, actually, Molly and Clarissa and I will be together next month in the UK for I can never remember exactly how to say the complete term.
It's the
What was
International Food Addiction Consensus Conference?
Yeah, what she said. Okay, thank you, Molly. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and throw it on to Joan. Hey, Joan.
I'm Joan Bjornsgaard, and I'm the newest member of the team, and I'm really excited to be part of Sweet Sobriety. I also am a mental health counselor and addictions counselor for 30 years. I'm also a food addiction coach, and I also have my personal recovery story. I've been part of this community for more than 2 years and have gone through all the courses that have been offered and have learned so much. And I took Dr. Tarman's course, and then I took the Addictions Academy course to get my national certification. And I'm just really excited to be here and be part of Sweet Sobriety at this in this way. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Joan. And now, without further ado, we will introduce you to Bethany, who will then jump us into the next exciting course for May.
Sure, thank you. And Joan, I was glad to hear you say your last name because I've looked at your last name and I've never heard you say it. And I'm like, oh, it wasn't too far off what I thought. And for those of you looking at my last name, wondering, what the heck is that? How do I say that? It's Mazereeuw, kind of like kangaroo. And I have my husband to thank for that last name. Can you believe I took it? I chose it after ditching my own maiden name. So anyway, so yeah, I am super excited to be here with Sweet Sobriety. I have tried a number of different sugar abstinent programs, and this is where I found recovery, was with Sweet Sobriety, because it just seemed like it was almost like a little bit of Goldilocks, right? It was not too hard, not too soft. It was just right. And I think that that's really important, to find a fit in a recovery community for you. So if you've been a part of other communities and you're like, oh, this just doesn't sit well with me, I don't feel like I can be my whole self, or I don't feel safe, you know, I know that for a lot of us, Sweet Sobriety is that safe place to be able to recover in our own ways. It's not one sort of program or one meal plan or one prescription on how to do things. And one of the things that I really do love about Sweet Sobriety is that it's very holistic. And so we get to bring forward a number of workshops and education and courses for you that cover so much more than the food, because the food is often what brings us here, or alerts us to the fact that there's a problem. But recovery is so much more than food. So we get to look at all kinds of things that, you know, we could change in our lives to then make us not want to go to the food quite so often, right? So so it kind of all goes together as a package. So, and I do have my own recovery story as well. And I should say I'm in Kitchener, Ontario, Canada, and I am a registered social worker as well, and I'm a coach. And so, yeah, and so let's dive in to what this course is about. So I'm so glad to bring this, because this workshop has been a while in the making in my head for a long time. So it's called Strength in Numbers, and I'm going to share my screen. There we go. Can we see that all right? Yeah, okay. Good stuff. So yeah, so Strength in Numbers, and this is using the Enneagram to grow in your recovery. And I'm just going to give credit to my husband, Greg, for coming up with the title, and also for putting up with me for going on and on and on and on about the Enneagram for several years now. And he still doesn't know his number, by the way. And this is where you cannot type someone else. So as much as I'd like to, as much as I'd like to sort of figure out what his number is, he needs to do that part, right? So, all right, so this workshop will be live in May, and I truly believe that this is a game changer for you and for your recovery. It certainly has been for me and for other people that I've talked to. And so I'm going to start by telling you a little bit about my own journey with recovery and the Enneagram. So I learned about sugar addiction kind of mid to late 2019. I did listen to a Quit Sugar Summit, and I was listening to the summit because I knew that there would be some speakers there talking about keto, and that was the current way of eating for me, right? I had been doing that for a couple of years, and I thought, oh, I could learn how to do this better. And I have followed all kinds of diets and ways of eating over the years. And so this was just one more. And so I went to the summit thinking, this is going to be, I'm going to learn more about keto and how to do that better. And they started talking about sugar addiction, and I thought, well, I don't really think that's me. I can quit. I can quit anytime I want to. And then I started to realize, oh, maybe there is something to this, and maybe I should give it a try. Because with keto, I was still having all the sweeteners. I was making all the desserts, and I was making, you know, fat bombs and things like that using the approved sweeteners. And I wasn't really, I was noticing some differences, like not being so hungry all the time, but other ways I was not really realizing any benefits to it. So anyway, so I tried in January of 2020, I joined a program to go sugar-free and flour-free and then grain-free and then fruit-free and then vegetable-free, because I got to this point where I thought, I am restricting almost everything anyway, and so I might as well try carnivore. I had heard about carnivore and I thought, okay, I'm just going to eat only meat and animal products. And so I did that for about 4 months and I saw some benefits and I lost weight. And that sounded really good to me because my focus has always been on losing weight since I was probably about 10 years old. And so I was sort of blinded by losing weight. I was very happy about losing weight, and I was very much ignoring some other things that were not going well, like sleep and digestion and also the social factor. Like I was just not having a good time with this when we were together with other people. And then in 2021, I spent the better part of that year trying to stick to carnivore. So I was on and off for about 8 months. Looking back, I think I was mostly on, but I always felt like I was failing. I would start out with a plan and then not be able to fulfill it. I thought there was something wrong with me, not enough willpower, whatever it was. And I was just trying the best I could to practice abstinence. And then it wasn't until I started working first with Clarissa and later with Sweet Sobriety that I started to understand, hey, there's something much more important here than abstinence, and it's called recovery. And so for those of you who are already in Sweet Sobriety, I'm sure you've learned or are starting to learn about this bigger concept of recovery. All right. And so then about the same time, so later in 2021, I started to dig into a bit more about the Enneagram. So I had known about the Enneagram and I thought I knew what my number was for a couple of years. And then I started to read a rather large book about it. Okay, kind of more like a textbook about it. And I signed up for a small group workshop to explore it further. And that is where I really started to see this alignment between recovery and the work of the Enneagram. So a lot of what the Enneagram teaches is about discovering and becoming more of your true, authentic self. And that was exactly how I was understanding the journey of recovery, thanks to, the perspective offered at Sweet Sobriety. So much of our recovery is about, if we look at this diagram, we can see a recovery and Enneagram are very similar because much of our recovery is about looking at first our automatic responses to things. So such as going to food when we are distressed or stressed, right? When we have emotions going on, we might go to food to be able to cope. We will then somehow awaken to what's going on when we start to look at it and we start to really see, oh, this is what's happening, right? This is my automatic response. And then we can align to new ways of doing things. So how we want to be. So we look at, okay, how do we modify our behaviors and change and align to how things could be? And then allowing or accepting things as they are. And acceptance is a very big part of recovery, when we can accept the things we cannot change, right? And we look at things as, okay, what is within my control here? And we realize it's not all that much. And so we have to accept what is left. And then responding with more of our authentic selves. So, and as we can see here, that is really similar to this Enneagram pathway. So that was kind of the time when this seed was sown in me to be able to overlay the Enneagram with our recovery journey. And now I'm really excited to be able to be at this juncture where I can bring it to you in the Sweet Sobriety workshop kind of vehicle so that you can learn about it too. Okay, so part of the challenge that I've had, this is a diagram of the Enneagram. This is one of many, 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 many that you can find online. And so part of the challenge that I had in creating this workshop is knowing what to bring forward and what to leave out. Because the Enneagram is very huge, it's very rich, it's very nuanced, and you could literally spend decades studying it, and you could spend a lot of time applying it to your own growth and recovery. There's just so much in it. There's so much richness to it. But I thought, okay, I've got to start somewhere. And one of the things that helped me to put things together for this particular workshop is the hope that I'll be able to bring more Enneagram workshops forward to help us dive deeper. So when I was trying to decide what to include and I didn't want to overwhelm anyone, and I thought, okay, I can set that aside for a future workshop. I can set that aside for a future workshop. So that was very helpful for me. So for this first workshop, I had to decide, okay, what are the elements that we're going to cover and set some realistic goals for the participants. So my goal, my hope is that by the end of the workshop in May, if you take the workshop, you will know more about the Enneagram. You will see how it overlaps with our recovery journey, and perhaps even start to figure out your own number, which is the number that is yours, and then use it to grow and start that growth using your number. And then my other hope is that you will see, okay, this is my number and this is the way I see the world. And there are 8 other ways of viewing the world in addition to yours. And that hopefully will inspire us to grow in our compassion for other people in our lives as well. Okay, so in terms of describing the Enneagram, I often refer to the Enneagram as a roadmap. So it shows us these ways that we get lost, and it shows us the ways we come back to our true selves, or sometimes it's called coming back home, right? And then sometimes I will also use this other picture here, the person in the box, and say, okay, the Enneagram is kind of, it helps to describe this box that we're in so that we can get free of it. So it doesn't leave you in the box. It doesn't leave you just in this static place, right? So it's describing the box for you so that you know how to be free of it. So it's helping us to see when we are in patterns that are dominated and run by our personalities. Those behaviors that tend to trip us up. Maybe they're behaviors with food or with other people, maybe even with ourselves, where we're not being honest with ourselves. This is a tool to really help grow our self-awareness. And it also helps us to know, okay, now that I've seen that pattern at work, I can notice it and I can pause. I can look at what I'm learning about myself and then choose something different based on what the Enneagram will show us is our work to do, because each number, each type has specific work to do. And this is the work that really helps us break free of patterns when we get stuck in our personalities. Sometimes it's called like letting our personality or our ego drive the bus or run the show, right? So when we know that when those things are happening, we get clues, we get warning signs, and the Enneagram can show us what those are for each particular type. So the Enneagram is really all about growth. Beatrice Chestnut is someone who has studied and taught the Enneagram for a long time, and she says it this way: the most powerful aspect of the Enneagram is that it's a model of transformation that indicates a path for growth. Okay, so it's really helping you to grow and change. It's not stagnant. So we can't just say, you know, well, now I know I'm a type 6. Okay, so type 6 on the Enneagram, and I'm always going to be a 6, and that's that. Or, you know, we get confronted with, you know, some kind of relational problem or something going on, some behavior, and we say, oh, that's just my 6ness coming through. And then we just stay there, right? It's not about that. Growth with the Enneagram is going to sound more like, oh, what are the gifts I have as a 6? What can I offer the world as a 6? Where is my 6ness tripping me up? Am I a healthy 6 right now, or am I starting to slip in my health? Because there are all kinds of levels of health within your Enneagram type. Or what are some of my own indicators that I might be under more stress than I thought? And we can learn about those with the Enneagram too. So for example, with a 6, if I'm starting to pick up unhealthy traits of a 3, that lets me know that I could probably use some more self-compassion or self-care before that goes too far. I can use it as a warning sign. Another way to look at the Enneagram is like an owner's manual. So sometimes I think, wouldn't it have been nice if we were all just born with an owner's manual? That we had like this instruction guide for our own operating system, right? Because then we wouldn't wonder so much, why is this happening? Why am I doing this? Why is this my pattern? What's going on here? So the Enneagram can be kind of like this manual that shows the 9 ways that people default in life. And the 9 types are based on core motivations, right? So it can tell you the why. Why do I do this? The why behind all that we do or think or feel. One more way to look at it is the lens with which you see the world, right? So maybe you weren't even aware that you were wearing lenses, but we're all wearing lenses. And sometimes what we encounter is that we are seeing the world differently than someone else, and that can lead to, at times, interpersonal struggles. And it can sometimes leave us wondering about ourselves, like, what is wrong with me? What is going on here? So when we start to understand that we each have a lens for viewing the world, and that there are 8 other lenses by which other people see the world, then it opens us up to better relationship and understanding with other people. Okay, so what I'd like to do tonight is introduce you to 3 people. These are 3 people that I know that are using the Enneagram in their recovery. So what I'll show you, they aren't their real photos or their real names, but what they've said to me is real. Okay, so up front first is my friend Lola. So I've always known Lola to be very expressive with her face and with her body, and she's a great communicator, especially if you know how to read her face and body language. She loves working out. She's been really upset lately that she has experienced some health issues and her body is not allowing her to do the things that she wants to do. So since learning about the Enneagram, Lola first thought that she was a 2 because she loves to help people. And she was noticing that she was very different from other people that she had in her small group of recovery because they would talk about things, they would think about things that they're going through, they would talk about their feelings, but her first reaction was always just to feel things in her body. And when she reflected on that, she realized it had always been that way for her, but she just never knew that that was different from other people. So like when she and I talked, we were like marveling at our differences because she takes in information primarily through the body first. And for me, that's an area where I really need to force myself to tune in to my body to know what's going on there. Right? So she started learning about the intelligence centers of the Enneagram, so head, heart, and body, and that's one of the things that we'll cover in this workshop. And it was like a key in a lock for her. It validated the way that she had always processed information with her body, right? And using that information, she now knows she's a 9 on the Enneagram because 8s, 9s, and 1s are in the body center of intelligence. And that just made so much sense to her. Even if she doesn't like everything about a 9, she felt like, oh, I'm understood, I'm seen, even though I don't like everything here. And just a side note, we typically don't like everything about our number. And also not everything about our number will perfectly align for us because the numbers represent archetypes, right? So most of what's there will align. The core motivation, the core fear will usually align, but not absolutely everything will align. So she looks at her 9 now and she feels like she's kind of come home to being a 9. Even though there are some parts of it, she's like, I'm not sure that that part exactly fits. So we're really just looking for the number that fits us the best out of all of them. Okay, so here's my friend Betty. Okay, this is not really Betty, but you guys are getting the idea here. So Betty is a giver, right? She loves to give gifts. She loves to give attention and time to people. And I've always known her to be doing things for people, strangers, and especially people that she loves. And she found out that she's a 2 on the Enneagram, which means her core motivation is to give and receive love. And then the flip side of that, her basic fear is of being unloved or unwanted. So when Betty started to understand these core motivations and fears by learning about the Enneagram, she said it was like unlocking something about herself that she had never before understood. So both of these friends use that like Lola talked about a key in a lock and Betty talked about this is something being unlocked. So that's how people often describe using the Enneagram to find out more about themselves. So one of Betty's biggest epiphanies was about resentment. So she would often do things for people. And then sometimes if those things weren't acknowledged or appreciated, she would become resentful. Not the things she did for strangers, that didn't matter so much, but people that she loved, she would become resentful if they didn't notice that she was doing things for them. And she knew that this was happening, but she didn't know why. And she didn't know that it was a pattern for her. But using the Enneagram helped her to see, oh, resentment is getting triggered for her because she's doing things for people in order to receive love. Or put another way, using that core fear, in order to avoid the fear of being unloved or unwanted. So this made so much sense to Betty. And now she can use it. She knows that when that feeling of resentment starts to rise up in her, she can look to where she has been doing things for people for the purpose of securing their love for her. Right? So it might sound a little bit like manipulation when that starts to happen. And for her, it's just this understanding of the reasons behind what she was doing and experiencing. That was the life-changing part for her. And she knows that she can see this default pattern, and then she has a better understanding of what's going on inside of her and what to do about it. All right, so this is Anna. Well, this is Anna as I picture her if she was a little girl. Okay, and if you notice this picture, she's eating in anger. And this happened all the time to Anna, but she didn't really know that that's what was going on. So when something happened at work that made her angry, she ate. And when she got off a phone call with her mom that upset her, she ate. When she got into recovery from disordered eating, dieting, and sugar addiction, she realized what she was doing. So she had been eating out of anger. And as we sometimes say in Sweet Sobriety, she was eating at someone, or she was eating at the problem. And so she had a big realization there, and she had some awareness of what was going on and what she was doing, and she was able to make some changes. And then when she learned about the Enneagram, she learned that she was an Enneagram type 1, and this helped her go so much deeper because she realized that she had been raised to believe that anger is wrong. And as a 1, her wounding message, her childhood message was, it's not okay to make mistakes, right? So if anger is wrong, it's a mistake to be angry, or it's wrong to be angry. So for Anna, this was really extremely validating. So she had a sense of relief, and she described it like a puzzle piece coming together. And she said, oh, so this is why I eat out of anger. Anger is my go-to emotion as an Enneagram 1. And this is why I end up feeling so bad about being angry, because she felt like when she had been led to believe really that anger is wrong, and therefore when I'm angry, I am wrong. I should not feel anger. And so there was this shift in her whole identity when she learned about anger and resentment being part of her Enneagram vice. So she was able to see so many ways that this wounding message of it's not okay to make mistakes, or it's not okay to be wrong, that how that was showing up again and again in her life. She had always been praised for being good and punished for being bad. And because she now understood that as a 1, her core desire was to be good and right, she could see why she had been attracted to so many diet programs that were about being good and right. Right? So for example, she talked to me about the tracking in Weight Watchers. And that was something that seduced her time and time again, because she thought, I'm going to fit in here because I know what to do with rules. Rules about being right and wrong have been guiding me my whole life. And this all or nothing thinking is so ingrained in me. And here's a community where this is really enforced. And so after reaching maintenance phase in Weight Watchers, she was completely on board with having to pay if she was more than 2 pounds over her goal weight, because that fit with her credo of being good and right. So being overweight was bad, and that needs to be punished by paying that week, right? So it was all making sense to her. And as she learned more about herself as a 1, she started unlearning that black and white thinking and trying to live in the gray in small ways, right? So she's learning to accept imperfection in herself, in the world around her, And one of the major shifts that came in her recovery, the recovery and the Enneagram work when it came together, was getting her focus off weight loss as a goal and focusing on, okay, what's going well in other areas, such as being able to reduce medications that she had depended on for a long time. And now she's giving herself permission to name anger. She's giving herself permission to feel it, just to be angry. And she knows now that it's okay to experience anger and that it doesn't make her bad or wrong. Like she said to me, like, I'm not a robot, I have emotions. And so this was a big piece for her. And she gave me a really beautiful statement when she said, the Enneagram has given me the ability to name things in my life that have plagued me for so long. It gives language around that and understanding. So those are three of my friends who are using the Enneagram in their recovery journey. I just wanted to show you a listing here of, this is just one example of what you can learn when you start to explore the Enneagram. Image credit for this goes to Enneagram with JB, which is Jackie Brewster. So this is a listing of what each Enneagram type needs in order to combat their lost childhood message. So the message that we needed, but we didn't receive. So for a type 1, and I recognize that you might not know what your number is, and that's okay. Let's just look at all the differences here. So for a type 1, what they need is the ability to establish order and have it respected and praised. For a type 2, they need to know through words and deeds that they are not only wanted, but they are deeply loved. For a type 3, they need to hear the words, "You're amazing, you're wonderful, I'm so glad you're mine," or "I'm so glad you're here with us." Right? So for a 4, they need to be acknowledged and accepted and pursued. For a 5, they need to have personal space and privacy and to have very little demand placed on them. For a 6, they need to know that they have your support, but they're not going to be overwhelmed by that support. They will still have independence. For a 7, they need to establish a healthy, predictable routine that is made up equally of stimulation and rest. 7s tend to go after stimulation, and they also need rest. 8s need to know that they are both respected and deeply loved. And 9s need to have a person they feel safe and comfortable with, a relationship in which they can share their needs and desires. So this is just one example of what you can learn about yourself when you know your number. And just in light of this particular example, knowing what you need is an important thing to be able to ask, right? It's important to know that so that you know what to ask for. And asking for what we need is part of recovery. Does anybody in Sweet Sobriety recognize that message? We need to ask for what we need. All right, so as far as the workshop itself goes, it's called Strength in Numbers, and you're going to get 4 videos to watch or rewatch at your own pace. Once you have the course, then you can access it anytime. And these videos are going to help you to learn about some basics of the Enneagram and why it's such a great tool for self-growth and accelerating your recovery journey. You're going to learn about the triads. So there are lots of triads in the Enneagram, but we're going to zoom in on the 3 centers of intelligence. So that's the body, heart, and head, and what that looks like for each number, the thinking, feeling, doing. Okay. And then we're going to learn about our basic desires and our core fears. These are really at the heart of the Enneagram, and this is how you determine your type. It's not by your outward behaviors, which is why I mean, you can take a test to know, but that test is usually going to measure your outward behaviors. We want to look at the core motivations and fears, what's underneath the behaviors. And that really helps us dig into why we do the things we do. And then lastly, we're going to look at childhood messages. So both the messages we received, which are sometimes called wounding messages, and the ones that got lost, the ones that we needed to hear, but we didn't hear. And so these videos are going to be released to you one at a time. About a week prior to each live session, you'll get the video. And with each one, there is homework for you to complete. And the homework is where the growth and learning really is. And so I'm hoping that you can make time for that. I will never be checking to see if you did your homework. I will always ask if there's something people want to share from their homework, but I don't check up on homework. There's no grading, nothing like that. It's just the more you dig in and the more you allow time for, the more you will learn from this and the more you can apply it to your own journey. And then we're going to have the 4 live group coaching sessions. They will be at noon Eastern time on Wednesdays. So May 1st, 8th, 15th, and 22nd. And then you will also have a list of resources to help you continue to explore the Enneagram. Okay, so and just a reminder that when you do determine your Enneagram type, this is really just the beginning. So as Don Richard Rizzo and Russ Hudson put it, knowing your type is not the final destination. And these are the authors from that big tome that I read. It's called The Wisdom of the Enneagram. They know an awful lot about this. So there is so much wisdom there in the Enneagram, and you can apply it to so many areas of your life, especially your recovery and your relationships. So if you're interested in registering, the registration for the course is open. And you can learn more about the website. If you just hold your phone up to the screen and take this QR code, it should take you right to the Sweet Sobriety page where this workshop is profiled. And so that you can see more, I've got a little video on there and a description of the course. Or if that doesn't work for you, you can go to sweetsobriety.ca and be able to find it. So I would love to be able to see you there and help you along your recovery journey with this tool of the Enneagram. If you can't tell, I'm really passionate about it. So, so that's the end of the presentation. I will stop sharing so that I can see everybody again. And do we want to go to questions?
Yeah. Does
Okay.
anyone have any questions? There is a question in the chat. I don't know if
Okay, I
you
haven't
saw
seen it yet.
Says, do you use it's like RHETI, RHETI, to determine one's type?
Okay, so Kim, I don't use that for the Enneagram to determine the type, but could you tell me more about what the RHETI is, if you're available to speak?
Hi, yes.
Yeah,
It's
go ahead.
just, it's supposed to be the evidence-based test from the Enneagram Institute that is the most accurate
Okay.
from my understanding.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for that. So that one will be in the resources. So my take on tests is that you can use them, you can take them. It might help you to narrow things down, but unless you've got one number that comes out as such a clear winner above the rest, I would say hold the number loosely because you will learn more about the Enneagram and it may or may not fit for you as you learn more. And you may end up changing your mind. So I always encourage people to hold their number loosely, especially at the beginning, if that makes sense. Okay, Sean, go ahead.
Just a clarification. Are there
Mhm.
4 videos and 4 group chats, or are there
Yes.
4 videos of group chats?
No, there will be 4 videos that are already recorded, and they are the curriculum. So, and there's slide decks to go with them, and you will get a copy of each slide deck if you want it as well. And those recordings you can watch as often as you want to, as quickly or as slowly as you want to. I'm guilty of speeding up videos like that because I just think I can get more accomplished if I listen to this faster. And then I sometimes have to end up pausing it and thinking about it or rewinding, whatever it is. So you can use those at your own pace. And then there will be 4 live sessions as well.
And will the live sessions be recorded?
They will be recorded.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. So when I record them, they will go into the curriculum as well. So if you miss one, it'll be in the same place and you can watch that as well. Good question, Sean. Thank you. Yeah, Jackie, go ahead.
Um, couple questions. So, the
Mhm.
videos, about how long are they each? And then as to the homework, is that like a couple hours, 20 minutes? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, good question. So the videos vary in length. I think the longest one might be just over half an hour, and some of them are about 20 minutes. I just was so keenly aware of how much there is to know about the Enneagram that I sort of brought it right back to some chunkable learnings for it, because I want you to sort of get and understand the basic concepts. And then in terms of the homework, it does depend. I don't know if you'd have to spend a couple of hours on it. There is one exercise in there where you could probably do it in about 20 minutes, or if you're more prolific in your writing and journaling, it could take you longer. It could be maybe up to a couple hours, but not necessarily having to spend that much time on it. They are also exercises that you can return to. So they could be recurring things that you like, questions that you ask yourself as you go along. And you bite off whatever you can chew out of it, and all of it will be there for you. Once you sign up for the course, you have it for life. So it's not going to just disappear. And then when it comes to live groups, you can share whatever you want to from the homework. You don't have to share. We're not going to take up the homework. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Riso Hudson Enneagram. Oh, that's what it stands for. Okay, so there is one as part of the exercises, Kim, that we are going to be using a Riso Hudson exercise, but it's a much shorter version to get people started. It's called the Quest. So that will be part of it as well. It's not necessarily a type indicator, but it will help you narrow it down. And Erica asked, will I be doing wings? So wings is a part of Enneagram language. It just, if you recall the circle diagram that I had, and the numbers go around in a circle, wings would be the numbers that are right beside your number. And you can have, like a little wing, or you can have a big wing, or you can have no wings, or you can have two strong wings. And no, we're not going to be covering wings, because that was one of the things that I had to leave out in essence of time, but it is something that I hope to address in a future workshop. Okay, and then another question, are Enneagrams relevant to everyone or strictly people in recovery? And I'm curious if we could discuss these with friends and family who are not in recovery. Absolutely. You do not need to be in recovery to learn from the Enneagram. Many people use the Enneagram for all kinds of growth and development, especially in relationships. So you could definitely discuss this with people who are not in recovery. What I was consciously aware of is that how much alignment there is with recovery. Sometimes when we're in recovery, I come back to the concept from Laura McCune, I think. We are the luckiest, right? So when we're in recovery from addiction or anything really, we get to do this process of examination and self-awareness and growth and development that people who are not in recovery are not forced into. And so we get to do that work. And so I was just seeing how much alignment there is, because it's all about growth, and transformation. So, but it's not necessary to be in recovery to understand and appreciate and use the Enneagram. So you can talk with your family and friends about it. A note of caution on that. When you start to learn about the Enneagram, you will start to see all the people around you, and you'll be like, oh, that person's a 6. Oh, I can see the 4 in that person. And that is typing other people. And that's not advisable at all, because people have to go on their own journey and find out what their number is. We can't pretend to know what they are. When I first started doing this, hearing about the Enneagram, my friend said to me, I bet you're a 6, right? But she was looking at outward behaviors. And I'm not a 6. A 6 was not even in the running for me. But when we got to motivations, then she could see how, oh, that's why you did that thing. You didn't do it because you were a 6, and you were afraid of whatever, disaster planning. You did it for other reasons. And so the outward behavior doesn't give all of the evidence, right? Thanks, Erica. Yeah, go ahead, Erica.
Hey everyone. This is awesome, Bethany. You're really a rock star. I'm loving that you're doing this. My question. Oh yeah. So is the idea that like, because right now, like I still vacillate between two, I'm either this or that. So is the idea that I should be able to identify that earlier on in the 4 weeks so that I can work as that, okay, I am a 1 indeed? Or will there be like vacillation the whole time? That's kind of what I've been doing for a couple of years with it already. So I'm wondering, like, I kind of want to
You
like
want to land.
decide or figure it out, and then I can move through the rest of the material as the 1 or the 4 or
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I so get that, Erica. I so hear that desire to just land somewhere. Let me know what number I am so that all of this information can make sense. So I don't know if by the end of the 4 weeks you will land. I don't know that. I can't promise that. But we will look, you'll be able to look at some different parts of it, right? So through an intelligence center, like, so that friend Lola that I had talked about earlier, she thought she was a 2 because of some things that she did and some desires she had, but she realized that, oh, that's not my body, that's not my center of intelligence at all. I am definitely a body center of intelligence. And she knew that so strongly. So that meant she had to be either an 8, 9, or a 1, right? So then she started opening herself up to looking at other numbers. So that could happen. It could be that you hear about, you know, the wounding messages, or you could hear about the core desires and fears and start to understand differently. And that's why I say you hold your number loosely as we go through it. And then you can go through the whole workshop thinking that you're one number, realize you're something else, and then you can just go back. You can look at the tool. You'll always have the tools, and so you can look at them again, and say, oh, is this a better fit for me, this other number? So I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thanks,
Okay.
Bethany.
You're so welcome. Other questions?
Well, if people do have further questions, where should they reach you?
So I should maybe put it into the chat. So you can email bethany@simplicated.com. That's a good way to do it. I'm also on Facebook. You can DM me a message there. I believe I'm the only Bethany Mazereeuw. Yeah, that's a good way. Or, you know, if you just email Sweet Sobriety too,
Yep.
we can either
We'll
answer
make
your
sure.
question or get it
Yeah.
passed along. Yeah.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your presentation today, Bethany. And thank you everyone for joining us this Thursday evening. And, you know, I see some new faces. So nice to see. And we look forward to having you join us in Bethany's workshop or our Sweet Sobriety group coaching. So I hope everyone has a great evening. And yeah, we will see you soon. Thank you so much for coming tonight.
Hi, thank you, everyone.